And he called me and he said, I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in the results. I'm disappointed in the results of my health test. And then there's the aspect of being disappointed in the results of your business. So how do you deal with disappointment? You soldier on, as they say. However, I'm not very good at soldiering on. So dealing with disappointment, my first process is to be really disappointed, to be miserable, to cry, to allow myself to grieve. So when you're dealing with disappointment, for me, the first thing you do is you allow yourself to be disappointed. You accept it. You go through the emotion. You don't put the emotion and suppress it and put it under the carpet. You allow yourself the disappointment and you face it and you admit to yourself that you're disappointed. Then after the acceptance and the emotion, you can then start to work with the disappointment. You can soldier on, pick yourself up and continue with the process. Or you could make up your mind and decide that the person isn't worth doing anything else with because they have not committed, or they haven't told the truth, or what you thought was the truth wasn't the truth because you had an agreement. It was oral, it wasn't typed up. And both of you had a difference of opinion. So you're both disappointed with each other. You're both pointing fingers. You're both blaming. So dealing with disappointment is a personal process. The next thing you could do is you can prioritize, reprioritize your thought process and your actions. So perhaps you are going to go this way with reference to, let's say, your health. You know, you've been following a health regime and it didn't work out. You still put on weight, or the illness returned. Do you get angry with the person who's helping you to lose weight? Do you get angry with the doctor or the nurse or the practitioner? Or do you accept that this disappointment is my body is still not well, it's still not healing, I'm trying this, or do you try something else? So the soldiering on may be trying something else. So dealing with disappointment is a very wholesome matter. You can be depressed. The whole world seems to be depressed at the moment. You allow your depression, and then after, I always say, if you're going to be depressed, be depressed for an hour or two, and then spend the remaining hours of the day happy. At least you allocate time to your disappointment, to your depression, and then you continue to embrace yourself, to love you, to go through your pain and to accept your pain. It's yours. It's not their pain. It's not their suffering. It's yours. It's real to you. It may not be real to them because it's your disappointment. They have disappointed you. They may not feel they've disappointed you. They may feel justified. What do you mean? And sometimes in disappointment, it would be nice if both parties just apologize to each other instead of pointing fingers and blaming. And when my client called and he was disappointed because his health was no longer, the exercises and what he'd done and the health and the medicine he'd taken didn't work. His illness had returned. And he said, Toks, I'm disappointed. And I heard him and I kept quiet and I let him talk. Sometimes you need to talk about your disappointment and you need to have someone listen to you without giving any suggestions and just listening. So sometimes dealing with disappointment means you need to talk about it and talk through it. And then after you've talked it out, you then, through sometimes the talking, you may get a solution. Sometimes through the talking, the person listening to you may be able to help you. And this is important. So dealing with disappointment is a personal thing. So I said to him, what would you like us to do? What would you like us to do? I thought I'd join in. Not that I could do anything, because I'm not a doctor, and I hadn't suggested anything. And he said, I think I need some silent time, and I need to have a healing session. I said, yes, working with the disappointment, having a healing session is useful. Yes, that's good. We could sing songs. We could work with bells and sound. We could work with crystals. We can work on each of the chakras. We can work with the release of the disappointment. So dealing with disappointment is a process each person has to take. Some people go boxing and do gym and run, and that's also good. Also, dealing with disappointment means you could also go and talk to the person who has disappointed you. Perhaps they've bullied you. Perhaps they've shouted at you, and you're disappointed in their behavior towards you. So you can actually go up to them and tell them. You can be strong. You don't sort of cower and feel small. No. You take up your courage, and in that disappointment, you go forward to that person and you say, I don't like what you said or what you did. It's not nice. And you could ask for an apology, or even they could apologize without you asking. So disappointment is a two-way process. If you can be gallant enough to say, I'm sorry there was a misunderstanding. I really am sorry that it didn't work out. I'm sorry. Sometimes a sorry goes a long way. Or sometimes you may just need to remove yourself from their mailing list. or you remove them from your mailing list. Or you just part, because sometimes you have to part. Sometimes it's not always easy dealing with the disappointment. And always, especially if the person is always going to blame you. So dealing with disappointment is a personal process. And I made some points here. It says, so learn from the disappointment. Do not rush into an act of vengeance. Do not panic. Perhaps look at your issues of trust. Maybe you shouldn't trust them again, or maybe you should come together and rearrange and look a different way and prioritize. But most of all, avoid blame and avoid negative people, and put things in perspective. Above all, be optimistic about everything. So, here is my aventurine amazonite tree, wishing you more happiness and joy. And in your disappointment, may you find peace. In your disappointment, may you find a solution. In your disappointment, may you find the power and energy to lift you up. Take care of yourself and each other. I love you. I love you. Tell me, how do you deal with your disappointment? Right below on the video. How have you dealt with a disappointment? How have you dealt with a disappointment? Let me know. Write your experience below. Big hug. Bye.